Exponents and order of operations. So we are going to first review exponents and then review order of operations and do a couple of examples. So really quick, we want to simplify, and we have our exponent, which is 3, and then our base, which is 5. So we want to look at these 4 examples. So for the first one, we want to write 3 copies of 5. Okay, so the exponent tells us how many times to write our base, and then we will multiply, so we get 125. If we have a fraction, we will follow the same idea. Whatever is inside the parentheses, in this case, we write that 2 times, and we multiply. When we multiply fractions, you multiply the numerator, 2 times 2. Multiply the denominator, 9 times 9, we get 81. We can have a negative number as our base. Since this is in parentheses, we have to write -7 2 times. And when we multiply, we get +49. The last example is very similar to C. However, it doesn't have parentheses. If you do not see parentheses, the exponent only applies to the number 7. It doesn't apply to the negative sign. So in this case, we have to write 7 twice. The negative just carries over in front, which makes our answer -49. Let's take a look and review our order of operations. The first thing we want to do for an order of operations problem is we would like to calculate whatever is inside of the grouping symbols. Grouping symbols can be parentheses, brackets, braces. They can also be absolute value and a division bar. And then the second step will be exponents. The third step is you would multiply or divide. You have to go left to right. Whatever is first, that's what we do first. Lastly, add or subtract, also left to right. Whichever is on the left, we do that first. Let's take a look at some order of operations problems. So the first problem I already completed, but let's take a look at the actual problem. So the problem will be this right here. In this problem, we only have multiplication and division. So notice that if you are multiplying or dividing, you have to go left to right. And you want to do this step by step and write everything out clearly to avoid mistakes. The first step is this multiplication right here. So we have 4 times 9, which gives me 36. You need to recopy the rest of the problem exactly the way it is. Again, the next step on the left is division. We get 18 multiplied by 5, and that's going to give us 90. A common mistake for this problem is that most students, or some students, multiply both of the parts, multiply 4 times 9 and 2 times 5. They do that at the same time and then divide last. That is against order of operations. Remember, you have to go left to right. So left is multiplication, next is division, next is multiplication. So we have to go in that order. Next example. This one contains absolute value, and it also contains a division bar. So let me highlight this part, absolute value and our division bar. So remember, if we have an operation such as subtraction in the absolute value, we have to take care of this operation first. Also, when you have a division bar, you need to simplify the numerator and the denominator first and divide last. So let's start by simplifying the numerator. And we start with the absolute value. 1 minus 3 is -2. You have to bring down the absolute value symbol. We will take the absolute value in the next step. We can simplify the denominator at this point. You have to multiply before you subtract. Let's go back to the numerator here. So since this is absolute value, I have to take care of this first. We do not want to combine the two negatives because these are not parentheses, they are absolute value. Take the absolute value first. That's 15 minus absolute value of -2 is 2. We can subtract 12 minus 6, and that's going to give us 6. And then we're going to go back to the numerator here, and we have to subtract 15 minus 2. That's going to give us 13. We can't reduce this, so we're going to leave our answer as is. Next example. So in this case, since we have no grouping symbols, our next step is to take care of the exponent. Remember, the exponent applies to this 5. 5 times 5 is 25. The negative comes down. Next step is we have to multiply. We are left with basically just subtraction. You want to go left to right. So we have 6 minus 4, that's going to give us 2 minus 25. And then 2 minus 25, that is going to give us -23. Last example. In this example, we have parentheses and we have brackets. If you have a situation as this one, then we want to start with the innermost grouping symbol. So the innermost grouping symbol will be the parentheses. And so we need to simplify inside here first. In this inner part, we need to take care of the exponent before we subtract. We will need to rewrite every other part of the problem exactly as is. 3 to the second power is 9. Again, going back to the parentheses, we need to subtract. So we have 8 times -11 divided by 4. We completed the operation in the parentheses, but I still have parentheses here because we have to multiply with 8. That would be the next step. 8 times -11 is -88. Now we need to complete the operation inside the brackets. That's going to give us negative 22. Now we're just left with multiplication and subtraction. You have to multiply before you subtract. So we have 3, and now we have to multiply negative 3 times negative 22, and that's going to give us positive 66, which gives us our final answer of 69.